Those eyes still haunt me, glowing like embers in the Ontario night, watching my grandchildren from the woods. I've lived here decades, but nothing prepared me for the hunger in that gaze, the way it stripped away the safety of my home. You've felt that chill, haven't you? When the dark feels alive, and you know you're not alone. My name doesn't matter. Call me Grandma, like Mason and Emma do. I'm just a woman who thought she knew her land, her woods, her life. In October 2016, my daughter Sharon called her voice bright with plans. She and her husband Rick were headed to Thunder Bay for their 15th anniversary, a rare escape from the grind of parenting. Can you watch the kids for the weekend? Mom, she asked. I said yes, like always. Mason, 11, was a quiet boy, his world woven from the pages of fantasy novels, dragons, wizards, quests that kept his eyes glued to ink. Emma, barely 8, was a spark, always moving her stuffed rabbit, clutched tight, despite her protests that she was too old for it. They were my heart, those two, and my 40-acre plot in northwestern Ontario was their haven. This land, bought with my late husband Earl in 1978, is a world apart. The house sits low wood and stone, surrounded by pines that stretch into Crown Land, miles of forest, where the only sounds are wind and wildlife. Sharon and her brother David grew up here, their childhoods carved into those trees. They'd climb, explore, vanish for hours, and come back with dirt on their knees and stories on their lips. I never worried. The woods were ours, safe as the walls of my home, or so I thought. That weekend, something shifted, like the earth itself had exhaled a warning I was too stubborn to hear. Friday evening, Sharon's car crunched down the gravel drive. The kids spilled out before she could park. Mason, lugging a backpack stuffed with books, Emma's rabbit swinging from her hand. Be good for Grandma, Sharon called, but they were already racing for the porch, drawn by the scent of my chocolate chip cookies. I hugged Sharon, promised to keep them fed and happy, and waved as she drove off. Inside, the house was warm, the kitchen glowing with the hum of family. We ate spaghetti. Emma's favorite, the sauce staining her chin as she chattered about school. Mason read between bites his fork, pausing mid-air as he turned a page. After dinner, we settled on the couch for a cartoon about a princess. I dozed off halfway through the kids' laughter, lulling me like a song. When I woke, Emma was curled against me, her hair tickling my arm, and Mason was reading by lamplight, his face soft with focus. I tucked them into the guest room by 10, later than Sharon would have allowed. But that's what grandmas are for. Emma clutched her rabbit. her eyes heavy. "Good night, Grandma," she mumbled. Mason nodded, already lost in his book again. I closed the door, the house settling into quiet. Outside, the woods were dark, the lake beyond glinting under a half-moon. I checked the lock's habit, not fear, and went to bed. The kids' presence, a comfort in the silence. Saturday morning broke cold frost, painting the grass mist rising off the lake like a specter. I was at the stove flipping pancakes when Emma padded in her pajamas, wrinkled rabbit trailing behind. "Grandma, can we play outside after breakfast?" Her voice was eager, her eyes bright with the promise of adventure. Mason appeared, book in hand, his hair still mussed from sleep. "Bundle up," I told them. "It's chilly out there." They devoured pancakes drizzled with maple syrup, a gift from my neighbor Robert, who tapped his trees each spring. The syrup was thick sweet, a taste of this land. They ate fast, their excitement pulling them toward the door. "Rules," I called as they pulled on their coats. "Stay within shouting distance. Don't go past the big fallen oak. Come back when I call." They nodded, reciting the words like a prayer. They'd heard it since they were toddlers, their small feet toddling through these woods. I watched from the kitchen window as they raced across the backyard, their figures shrinking into the trees. The forest swallowed them, but I wasn't worried. Not yet. I busied myself with chores, washing dishes, chopping carrots for soup, the rhythm of routine, grounding me. The house smelled of warmth, of home, but outside, the woods loomed their shadows deeper than they should have been. An hour later, their voices returned, not laughing, but sharp, urgent. They burst through the door, cheeks pink from the cold eyes, wide with something I couldn't place. "Grandma." Emma grabbed my sweater, her fingers tight. "There's something weird in the woods." I set down my dish towel, forcing a smile. "Weird? How sweetheart." Mason stepped forward, his voice steady, but laced with unease. "Scratches on the trees. High up, way higher than we can reach." I tilted my head, picturing the black bears that roamed these parts, their claws raking bark to mark territory. "Sounds like a bear," I said. "You know the drill. If you see one, right? Make noise, back away, slow." "Don't run," they chorused. But Emma shook her head. "It's not bears, Grandma. The scratches are too high even for a big bear. They look like..." She spread her fingers wide, her small hand trembling, like something with really, really long hands. Pause for a moment. "Imagine those marks carved into ancient pines, far above where any animal could reach. You feel it, don't you? That prickle on your skin, the sense that something's wrong." I laughed it off, blaming their books and boundless imaginations. Probably just an old tree rubbing another, I said, handing them apple slices and cheese. Stay closer to the house this time. They nodded, but their eyes held a spark curiosity. Yes, but something darker, like they'd glimpsed a secret the woods weren't ready to share. You've been curious. Like that, haven't you? Stepping into the unknown, chasing a mystery, not knowing what's waiting. As they slipped back outside, I watched them go, their figures small against the vastness of the forest. The house felt quieter now, the air heavier. I shook it off, returning to my soup, but a seed of unease had taken root, burrowing deep. Mason and Emma vanished into the trees again, their coats bright against the gray of the Ontario morning. I stood at the kitchen window, my hands still damp from dishes, watching their path until the forest claimed them. The rules were clear. Stay close. Don't cross the fallen oak. Come when called. But Emma's words lingered. Long hands. I shook my head, scolding myself for letting a child's fancy stir me. This was my land, my home. I'd walked these woods with Earl, raised my children here. Nothing had ever felt wrong. Not until now. The forest around my property is older than the house, older than the stories we tell about it. Pines and cedars tower their branches, knitting a canopy that dims the sun. In summer, it's alive with birdsong. In fall, like that October, it's quiet, the leaves brittle underfoot. Mason and Emma loved it here, their games weaving through the same paths Sharon once ran. I'd always trusted those woods to keep them safe. But as I stirred the soup, a chill settled in my bones, unmoored from the frost outside. An hour passed, maybe less, when their voices cut through the silence. Excited, urgent. Not the carefree laughter I expected. They burst through the back door, their breath puffing in the cold air, faces flushed, but eyes wide with something sharper than play. Emma tugged my sweater, her fingers cold. Grandma, it's not just scratches. There's more. I knelt to her level, my heart quickening. Slow down, sweetheart. More what? Mason, clutching his sketchbook, spoke with a scientist's precision. The scratches are everywhere, Grandma. On different trees. All high up. And there's places where the grass is all squashed, like something big was lying there. I straightened my mind, racing to rational answers. Bears, deer, maybe a moose. Animals left marks, flattened undergrowth. But Emma's voice cut through my thoughts. It's not animals, Grandma. It feels wrong, like the woods are watching us. Stop and feel that. The weight of unseen eyes, the way the air thickens when you know you're not alone. I forced a smile, hiding the unease, clawing my chest. You too have been reading too many of Mason's books. Let's have lunch, and you can tell me all about it. They followed me to the kitchen, but their energy was different, less playful, more guarded. Over grilled cheese and tomato soup, they spilled details. More scratches, some fresh, others weathered, all impossibly high, as if carved by something taller than any man. Patches of earth were trampled, not scattered like deer beds, but pressed flat, deliberate. Mason flipped open his sketchbook, showing me drawings, jagged lines on bark. A patch of crushed ferns, circled by undisturbed ground. It's like it was waiting there, he said, his voice low. I leaned over the table, studying the sketches. The lines were too precise for wind or rot, too deep for a bear's casual swipe. You're seeing it now, aren't you? Those marks unnatural, carved with purpose. Your pulse quickens just like mine did. I pushed the thought away, focusing on the kids. Maybe it's a big buck rubbing its antlers. Happens this time of year. Emma shook her head, her rabbit clutched tight. It's not a deer, Grandma. Deer don't make you feel like this. Like what? I asked, my voice softer now. Like you're being hunted, she whispered. The word hung between us, heavy as the frost outside. I wanted to laugh, to break the spell, but Mason's eyes met mine, steady and too old for his 11 years. Can I borrow your binoculars? He asked. I want to look for tracks. I hesitated, then handed him the bird-watching pair from the shelf. Stay close, I said, my tone firmer than I meant. No going past the oak. They nodded, their excitement tempered by something new. Caution, maybe fear. As they slipped back outside, I watched them go, their small figures swallowed by the trees. The soup simmered, but I couldn't shake Emma's words. Hunted, I busied myself with laundry, folding Mason's shirts, tucking Emma's rabbit under a blanket when I found it on the couch. The house was warm, safe, but the windows kept drawing my eye. The woods beyond were still too still, the mist lingering despite the rising sun. I told myself it was nothing. Kids' imaginations, my own nerves. But when they returned just past 3 p.m., the air in the house shifted. Emma's bounce was gone. Her rabbit clutched like a lifeline. Mason's face was pale, his sketchbook trembling in his hands. What's wrong? I asked, opening the back door. Mason's voice was barely audible. There's something out there, Grandma. We heard it. Emma pressed against him, her eyes darting to the window. It followed us. When we walked, it walked. When we stopped, it stopped. We couldn't see it, but it was in the thick trees. My throat tightened. What else? It smelled. Mason said, his nose wrinkling. Like rotten meat. Like when Dad left hamburgers in the car last summer. Close your eyes. Breathe in that smell. Decay, thick and sour, clinging to your lungs. Now imagine it in a place you thought was yours, where your children play. I kept my face calm, but my hands shook as I closed the door. Probably a dead animal, I said. A deer, maybe rotting in the brush. You didn't see anything, right? Emma shook her head, but Mason held up his sketchbook. I found tracks. He showed me a drawing footprints, long and narrow, almost human, but wrong. The toes splayed like claws, each tip digging into the earth. The stride was vast, each step spanning twice a man's. You're staring at those prints, aren't you? Your heart's pounding. Your mind screaming that this isn't natural. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. Could be a bear standing upright. They do that sometimes. It's not a bear. Emma said, her voice small, but certain. Bears don't smell like that. Bears don't follow you. I wanted to argue, to pull them into the warmth of routine, but their fear was real, palpable. Inside, I said, I'll make hot chocolate. They didn't protest their refusal of cocoa, a treat they never turned down, telling me more than words could. As they sat on the couch, I locked the back door, my fingers lingering on the bolt. The woods outside were silent, but I felt it, a presence, heavy and waiting, just beyond the trees. The kids sat on the couch, Emma's rabbit a shield against her chest, Mason's sketchbook open to that haunting drawing of tracks. I locked the back door, checked the windows, drew the curtains halfway enough to see out enough to hide. My heart hammered, but I kept my face calm, a grandmother's mask to shield them from my fear. It's nothing, I said, stirring hot chocolate no one touched, just the woods playing tricks. But Emma's eyes, wide and searching, told me she didn't believe it. Neither did I. Mason's voice broke the silence, small but determined. Grandma, will you come look? Just to the edge of the woods. Please. I should have said no, should have bundled them into the car and driven to town, to Sharon, to safety. But I was still the practical one, the one who fixed things, who didn't scare easy. Okay, I said, pulling on Earl's old jacket, its wool heavy with his scent. But we stay close. They nodded their relief fragile and followed me outside. The backyard was crisp, the frost melting under a weak sun. The trees loomed their branches like fingers reaching for the sky. We walked to an old pine, 50 feet from the house, where the ground was soft from recent rain. Mason pointed his finger, trembling. There, The tracks were there, just as he'd drawn, long, narrow, almost human. But the toes splayed unnaturally, claw marks gouging the earth. The stride was vast, each step spanning twice what a man could manage. You're standing over them now, aren't you? Your breath catches your mind racing for answers that don't fit. I knelt my fingers, hovering above the prints, afraid to touch. I'd seen bear tracks. Moose deer, decades in these woods, taught me their shapes. These were different. The toes were too long, the claws too deliberate, like something had pressed its weight with purpose, marking its claim. See, Grandma, Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. Weird, right? I nodded, my mouth dry. Yeah, weird. Before I could say more, a sound tore through the forest. Not a howl, not a scream, but something in between, a keening wail of pain and hunger. It wasn't a wolf bear or cougar. I'd heard those lived with them. This was older, deeper, like it clawed its way from a time when humans were prey trembling in caves. Feel that sound in your bones. It's not just noise. It's a warning, a promise of something coming. Emma grabbed my hand, her fingers ice cold. Mason stepped closer, his binoculars forgotten. Inside, I said, my voice sharp, cutting through the air. We moved back, not running. Running felt like inviting a chase. The whole way, I felt it, eyes on my back, heavy as a hand, cold as the grave. Inside, I locked every door, checked every window, drew the curtains tight. The kids huddled on the couch. Mason's sketchbook closed. Emma's rabbit a lifeline. Grandma, what was that? Mason asked, his voice fragile, a boy trying to be brave. I didn't know, so I did what grandmas do, pretended normalcy. Just an animal. I lied, my hands shaking as I started dinner. Maybe a coyote hurt or lost, but my mind churned, replaying that sound, those tracks Emma's words hunted. While the roast cooked, I called Robert my neighbor, a quarter-mile down the road. I kept it light, casual, as if my heart wasn't pounding. Hey, Robert, noticed anything strange lately? Odd animals, maybe. His pause was too long. Funny you ask. Lost 2 chickens this week. Something tore through the coop. Strong wire, the good stuff. Dogs won't go near the tree line after dark. Been barking like they're possessed. My stomach twisted, a cold knot forming. Thanks, Robert, I said, hanging up before my voice betrayed me. The kids watched me, their eyes searching for reassurance I couldn't give. Dinner soon, I said, forcing a smile. But they barely ate their forks, pushing food around plates. I set up a camp out in the living room. Blankets, pillows, a movie on low to keep them close. They didn't argue their silence louder than words. As they settled on the floor, I sat in Earl's old recliner, facing the big picture window. I kept the lights off, the better to see outside, my eyes scanning the yard. The kids fell asleep. Emma's breaths soft. Mason's book slipping from his hand. The house was quiet, but the silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, like the air before a storm charged with something waiting. I thought about Sharon, about calling her, telling her to come get her kids. But what would I say? That the woods had turned against us, that something was out there following, watching. She'd think I was losing it, that the kids' stories had gotten to me. I stayed put, my hands gripping the armrests, my eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the glass. The forest was still the lake, a faint shimmer under the moon. I told myself it was nothing, a trick of the mind, a story spun from scratches and smells. But then I remembered a tale from my own childhood, one my father told by the fire. The Wendigo, he'd said, lives in the deep woods where men don't belong. It's hunger, pure and endless, with eyes that burn and hands that tear. It finds you when you're alone, when you're weak. I'd laughed it off, then a child safe in her bed. Now with my grandchildren sleeping behind me, that story felt like a warning I'd ignored too long. You're remembering stories like that, aren't you? Old tales you dismissed, but now they crawl back, whispering truths you don't want to hear. I shook my head, focusing on the yard, the porch light casting a weak glow. The trees stood sentinel, their branches unmoving. I told myself we were safe, that the locks would hold, that morning would come. But deep down, I knew the woods had changed. Something was out there, and it wasn't done with us. Around midnight, I saw it. Stop. Picture this, a shadow at the light's edge, where the world blurs into night. It's not right, not natural swaying, like it's alive, like it's tasting your fear. At first, I thought it was the trees, their branches caught in a breeze. But the night was windless, the air still as death. Then I realized the shadow was standing tall, too tall, 7 or 8 feet thin, as a skeleton stretched beyond reason. It swayed back and forth, a predator weighing its moment. My breath caught my knuckles, white against my mouth to keep silent. It stepped into the light, and my blood froze. Its body was a mockery of life bones jutting under skin that wasn't skin, not fur, not flesh, but something patchy, diseased like a dog eaten by mange. Its arms hung past its knees, fingers long and curled, tipped with claws that could carve those tree scratches in a single stroke. The face. God. The face was a nightmare. Sunken eyes glowed not like a wolf's, but deeper, hungrier burning, with a malice that saw me, knew me. Its mouth lipless and wide, parted to show too many teeth, glinting wetly, like it was tasting the air tasting us. You're there with me, aren't you? Heart pounding. Eyes locked on that thing, knowing it shouldn't exist, but does. You can't look away, can you? It moved, not walking, but lurching limbs, bending at angles that screamed broken. It crawled, then stood, then crawled again, circling the house, never leaving the light's edge. Its movements were wrong fluid, yet jagged, like a puppet with cut strings jerked by something cruel. I felt its gaze, sharp as needles, piercing the glass, the walls, my skin. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My body a statue in that chair. The kids slept their innocence, a weight I couldn't bear to break. I wanted to wake them, to run. But where? The forest was its domain, the night its cloak. I stayed watching, praying it couldn't see me in the dark. But I knew it could. It knew we were here, knew we were afraid. Twice I heard footsteps on the porch, soft, deliberate, testing the boards. The wood groaned under a weight too heavy for a man. Once breathing came through the window slow and wet inches from the glass, like it was smelling the house, searching for a way in. Close your eyes. Hear that breath, feel its cold against your skin. You're trapped, just like I was, with nowhere to go. I didn't look. Couldn't my eyes, fixed on the yard, on that swaying shape? It circled, relentless, its eyes never leaving the house. I saw it pause, tilt its head, as if listening, as if it heard my heartbeat. Emma's soft snores, Mason's dreams. Its mouth opened wider, teeth glinting, and I swear it smiled. Not human, not animal, but something that knew pain and craved it. I bit my knuckle harder, tasting blood, anything to keep from screaming. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, time warped in its presence, stretching like a nightmare. I thought of Earl, his strength, his laugh, wishing he were here to face this with me. I thought of Sharon, blissfully unaware, and the kids so small, so fragile. If they'd been outside, if they'd stayed in the woods after dark, they'd be gone. Not dead worse. Taken, changed, twisted by whatever this was. You're thinking of your own loved ones now, aren't you? Picturing them in danger, knowing you'd do anything to protect them. That's what kept me there in that chair, facing the dark. The creature didn't leave, not fully. It lingered, swaying, watching its eyes, a constant burn. I prayed for dawn, for light, to to banish it for the kids to stay asleep. The house was a fortress, but it felt like a cage, every wall a thin veil between us and that thing. As the first gray of morning touched the sky, it moved. Not away, but back, lurching into the trees with a speed that defied its broken form. It didn't walk. Its limbs folded, collapsed, then sprang, covering ground faster than anything should. I watched it vanish, but its presence lingered a stain on the air. I stayed in that chair, unmoving, until the sun was high, until the yard was bright, and the woods seemed normal again. But they weren't. They never would be. The sun rose, painting the yard gold, but it couldn't erase the night. I woke Mason and Emma, my voice hoarse, my hands unsteady. "Grandma's not feeling well." I lied. "I'm taking you home." They didn't argue, their eyes heavy with a fear they couldn't name. Emma clutched her Rabbit Mason's book, forgotten on the floor. I packed their bags, checked the locks one last time, and led them to the car. The woods watched us silent but alive, their branches like eyes tracking our every step. The drive to Sharon's was an hour the longest of my life. The kids were quiet, the car filled with a tension that pressed against the windows. Emma broke the silence, her voice small from the back seat. "Grandma, was that thing a Wendigo?" I glanced in the rearview mirror. Mason stared out the window, his reflection older, haunted, like he'd seen something a child should never see. "Where'd you hear that word?" I asked. My throat tight. "Mason read it in a book," Emma said. "He said it sounded like the stories, tall, hungry, with eyes that glow." I forced a laugh, brittle and false. "Just old tales, honey. Stories to scare kids." But my hands gripped the wheel, my lie tasting like ash. Mason didn't look at me, his silence louder than words. At Sharon's, I told her the kids got spooked, maybe saw a bear. She laughed, ruffling Mason's hair. "Too many books, huh? You and your dragons." She blamed their imaginations, and I let her. If I'd told the truth about the creature with too many teeth, its eyes burning through the night, she'd never let me see them again. She'd beg me to leave my land, to sell the house, to run. I couldn't risk losing them, not after what we'd survived. I drove home alone, the woods a blur outside my window. The house felt wrong when I returned, its warmth hollow, its walls too thin. Every shadow was a threat, every sound a footstep. I checked the windows, the doors, my hands trembling as I drew the curtains. That night, I slept with a kitchen knife under my pillow, its cold steel a frail comfort. By spring, I couldn't stay. The house, once my sanctuary, was a prison. Every creak was a claw, every gust a breath. I sold it, the land, the memories, everything. I moved to a condo in town, second floor. No trees, street lights bright as day. The realtor asked why, and I mumbled about wanting less upkeep. But it was the eyes, the tracks, the feeling of being watched. I couldn't live with it, couldn't risk the kids coming back to that land, to that thing. A year later, Robert called. His voice was low, hesitant. "You ever have trouble at your place before you left?" he asked. "Something got into my barn. Killed 3 goats, left them in a row, uneaten. My grandson, he's been saying he sees a tall man in the woods watching the house." I gripped the phone, my heart sinking. "No trouble," I lied and hung up. But I knew. It was still out there, waiting, watching its hunger, never sated. Emma's 16, now taller than me, her rabbit long packed away. When she visits, I catch her glancing at the woods beyond my condo, her eyes lingering, then pulling away. She moves casually, but I see it, the memory, the fear. Mason's in university, his books now textbooks, but his eyes carry that night, a shadow that never fades. We don't talk about it, don't name it, but it's there, a scar we all share. You're on the water now, aren't you? The lake's calm, the sun sinking, and something moves on the shore, something that doesn't belong. You feel its gaze, heavy, pulling you into the dark. That's how it started for me. One May night in 2023, when the lake I loved became a stranger. I am F. Teller, a man who finds peace in the quiet hours after work, chasing walleye on a lake up north. It's been my ritual for 2 decades, my 16-foot aluminum boat cutting through the water, a 25-horse Mercury humming at my back. The lake's my home, its weed beds and drop-offs mapped in my mind like a second skin. May 2023 changed that turned my refuge into a place I couldn't trust. That night, I anchored near the North Shore, where a weed bed slopes into 20 feet of water, perfect for walleye as the sun sets. I was there, rod in hand, the sky burning orange when I saw it. The shore was a black silhouette, pines stark against the fading light. I was focused on my rod tip, waiting for that subtle tug, when movement caught my eye. Something shifted among the trees, low and fast, not the slow graze of a deer or the heavy lumber of a bear. Close your eyes. Picture a shape, crawling, too fluid, too wrong for the world you know. I squinted, thinking it was a trick of the dusk, maybe raccoons scurrying in sync. But it wasn't. It moved like a soldier under barbed wire elbows and knees bending at angles that twisted my gut. It covered 30 yards in seconds, then stopped turning toward the water, toward me. My skin prickled that ancient instinct you can't ignore. I told myself it was a camper, some drunk stumbling from a tent. This lake sees a few each summer, city folks chasing solitude. But a voice deep and quiet whispered otherwise. Deer don't crawl like that. People don't move like that. The light was too low to see details, but I felt its eyes, heavy as a hand on my chest, pressing, watching. I was motionless, my breath shallow, caught in its stare. It stood there for maybe 20 seconds, then slipped away into the trees faster than anything should, leaving only shadows behind. I stayed another hour, caught 2 walleye good ones, but my eyes kept drifting to the shore. Nothing moved again, but the air felt thicker, like the lake was holding its breath, waiting for me to leave. I packed up the boat, rocking gently, and headed for the launch, my hands unsteady on the tiller. At home, I told my wife, half laughing about the weird guy crawling around. She chuckled, her voice warm, teasing me about staying out too late, saying the dark plays tricks on tired eyes. I wanted to laugh with her, to shrug it off, but I couldn't. That night, I lay awake, replaying the movement, the gaze, the way the woods went still, like they were hiding something from me. The lake's not far from town, a 20-minute drive down a gravel road that rattles your truck's frame. It's another world out there. Though, no cell service, no street lights, just water and trees stretching into the horizon. I've always loved that isolation, the way it strips away the noise of life. Work's a grind, endless meetings, spreadsheets, deadlines that never ease up. But the lake's different. It's where I'm whole, where I know every ripple, every shadow, every secret. The North Shore Bays, my spot, its weed bed, a treasure I've guarded for years. I know how walleye hunt at dusk, how the light shifts as night creeps in. That night, it felt like a place I'd never seen, its shores unfamiliar, its silence heavy with something I couldn't name. I went back the next week, same spot, same time, telling myself it was nothing. I cast my line, the bait glinting as it sank, but my eyes were on the trees, scanning for that movement again. The fish finder glowed green, its hum steady, but I wasn't watching it. I was watching the shadows, the places where light failed, where the woods seemed to breathe. I caught a fish, a pike, its scales glinting as I released it, but the thrill was gone. Every ripple on the water sent a jolt through me, not from excitement, but from dread, like something was pulling back, waiting for me to notice. I didn't tell my wife the full story. I mentioned a strange shadow, a fleeting glimpse, but left out the crawling, the eyes, the way my heart stopped. She'd worry, maybe ask me to stop going, and I'd see that look in her eyes, the one that says she's scared for me. I couldn't stop, not yet. The lake was part of me, its water in my veins, its quiet, my heartbeat. Giving it up would be like losing a piece of myself, something I wasn't ready to let go. So I kept fishing, kept going back, chasing the routine that had always saved me. But I was different now, cautious, watchful. I started carrying a knife tucked into my boot, telling myself it was for cutting tangled line or gutting fish. But I knew better. It was for the feeling, the fear, that something was out there, waiting. I'd sit in the boat rod in one hand, the other near my boot, my eyes catching every flicker on the shore. The lake was still my place, but it wasn't safe anymore, not since that night. I'd check the trees before each cast my breath shallow, waiting for the quiet to break, for the thing to show itself again. The woods were always there. Of course, their branches looming over the water, their shadows stretching long in the dusk. I'd never thought much of them before, just part of the lake's beauty, its wildness. But now they felt alive, watchful, their silence deeper than it should have been. I told myself I was imagining it, that one strange night had spooked me, that my mind was weaving tales from shadows. But the memory of that crawling thing, its unnatural speed, its heavy stare, it clung to me, a weight I couldn't shake, a darkness that followed me home. The lake was my escape, a place where the world fell away, where I could breathe. I'd been fishing it for years, knew every curve of its shore, every secret in its depths. But after that first night, it felt different, like I was a guest in a house that didn't want me there. The next week, I anchored up in my usual spot, the north shore, the weed bed, glinting below the sky, sinking into purple and gold. I cast my line, the bait spiraling down, but my eyes weren't on the water. They were on the trees, searching for that shadow, that shape. An hour passed quiet. Nothing but a small pike. I released, its eyes glinting as it swam away. Then, around 9:30 p.m., with light still clinging to the sky, I saw it again. Maybe 50 yards down the shore, it was there, crawling low and fast, that same stop-start motion, like a creature fighting its own body, but driven by purpose. You see it now, don't you? Its form jerking, freezing, then surging forward too fast, too wrong for anything human. My breath caught, my hand fumbling for my phone, not to call, but to zoom in, to prove to myself it was just a man, just a trick of the light. But by the time I raised it, the thing was gone, swallowed by the trees, leaving only silence. The birds went quiet, then that eerie hush when the forest senses danger, when every creature knows to hide. My pulse raced, hammer hard in my chest. I pulled the anchor ropes slipping through my shaking hands and moved to the other side of the lake. The motors whine, loud in the stillness. I didn't look back, didn't want to, but I felt it, the weight of eyes watching me flee, knowing I'd return. I didn't catch anything else that night, didn't even try. At home, I sat at the kitchen table, my notebook open, writing down the time, the place, what I'd seen. I told myself it was research, a way to make sense of it, to pin it down. Maybe it was a hermit, some lost soul, living off the land, half-starved and wild. But the way it moved, the silence that swallowed the woods after it appeared, it wasn't human, wasn't natural. I went back the next week, stubborn, refusing to let fear take my lake from me. I brought a spotlight. This time, a 1,000,000 candle power beast that plugged into the boat's battery, its beam strong enough to cut through the dark. If it was a person, I'd see their face call them out. If it was something else, I pushed the thought down, buried it deep. I anchored up same spot, same time, the North Shore's weed bed shimmering below. The sky was clear stars, just starting to show, but my eyes were on the shore, the spotlight ready in my lap. June came, and the sightings piled up, each one carving deeper into me. June 15th, 10 p.m. I saw it walking upright along the west shore, dragging something behind it. Maybe a branch, maybe something heavier, something I didn't want to name. Its silhouette was tall, too tall, its arms swinging too low, brushing the ground. June 22nd. I saw nothing, but I heard wood knocking. 3 sharp raps. A long pause, then 3 more echoing from the North Shore, like a signal, like it was calling me. July 4th. The lake was alive with holiday boaters, their laughter carrying over the water. But one pulled up beside me, a man in his 40s, his face drained of color. "You see that tall guy on the shore?" he asked, his voice low. "Been watching us from the trees. We're getting out of here." I knotted my throat too tight to speak. My eyes locked on the shore where he pointed, seeing nothing, but feeling everything. I added to my notebook a log of fear I couldn't explain, pages filling with times, places, movements. The thing was always there, sometimes crawling, sometimes standing, always watching, always closer. I told my wife fragments, leaving out the worst, the parts that woke me at night. sweating, heart racing. She'd roll her eyes, tease me about letting the lake get to me. But she didn't know. She didn't feel the trees go. Still, didn't smell the air. Turned sour like bait, left to rot in a tackle box, sharp and sickening, clinging to your skin. The lake was changing, or maybe I was. I'd sit in the boat, the water black and endless below, and feel studied, like every cast, every movement was a signal to something waiting in the shadows. The fish finder started glitching near the north shore, its screen flickering lines of static dancing across the green glow. I told myself it was old wiring, a loose connection, but the knife in my boot felt heavier. Each trip, its cold steel a reminder of what I wasn't saying aloud, what I couldn't admit even to myself. I tried fishing other spots, the eastern shore, a small bay where a creek feeds into the lake, its water cool and clear, but it didn't matter where I went. The thing found me always. One night, I saw it climb a tree, its body twisting like a snake, its limbs folding and unfolding as it scaled 40 feet in seconds, faster than anything should move. It stayed there, a dark shape pressed against the trunk, watching me fish its presence, a weight I couldn't ignore. I kept my eyes on the water, my hands steady on the rod, pretending I hadn't seen it. But I felt its gaze burning into me, knowing I was there, knowing I was afraid. I kept fishing, kept going back. But the lake wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to something else, something that knew my routines, my fears, my weaknesses. I told myself I'd stop, find a new lake, leave this one behind. But I couldn't not yet. The lake was part of me, its water, my blood, its shores, my bones. Giving it up felt like giving up on myself, on everything I'd built. So I went back week after week, spotlight in hand, knife in boot. My notebook, filling with a story I didn't want to read, chasing answers I wasn't sure I could face. The water's not safe anymore, is it? You feel it closing in the shore, too close, the dark too heavy. Something's out there, not just watching, but hunting, and you're in its world now. That's where I stood on a lake I thought I knew, with a thing that knew me better. By July, the lake wasn't mine anymore. I kept going back, stubborn, clinging to the routine that had grounded me for years, the one thing that kept me sane. But each trip brought new signs, each one sharper, more menacing, like the lake was warning me to leave. July 18th was a hot, still night. The air thick, the fish refusing to bite. Around 11:30, I felt a ripple, a wake cutting the water past my boat, too big for a beaver, too heavy for an otter. Picture it now, a V-shaped disturbance, like a shark's fin slicing through. But nothing breaks the surface. Nothing shows itself. I swung my spotlight, its beam slicing the dark, but it caught only water, black and endless, stretching into the night. Then I heard it. Wet, heavy slaps like canvas hitting rocks coming from the North Shore, steady and deliberate. My heart pounded, my breath shallow, the smell hitting next rancid, choking, like decay, left to fester in a forgotten corner, so thick it coated my throat. I started the motor, not caring about my lines, the ropes tangling as I pulled them in. I moved to the middle of the lake, the shore a black wall in the distance, but I felt it watching its eyes hidden. But there, always there. August brought more the sightings, relentless, almost every trip now. One night, I saw it climb a pine, its body undulating like a snake, its limbs folding and stretching as it scaled 4 feet in seconds, faster than anything alive should move. It stayed there, a dark shape pressed against the trunk, watching me fish its presence, a weight I couldn't shake. The smell came and went, carried by the wind, sometimes a faint whiff, sometimes so thick I gagged my eyes, watering my stomach, twisting. I started hearing stories from others, fishermen at the bait shop, campers at the gas station, whispers of a tall man in the woods, eyes that glowed in the dark, movements that weren't right, too fast, too strange. I told myself it was just folklore, a local legend spun from too many beers around a campfire. But my notebook told a different story, a pattern I couldn't ignore, a truth I didn't want to face. It was circling me, learning me its presence, growing bolder, its hunger more apparent. September came, and the lake turned hostile, its waters no longer a refuge, but a battlefield. I'd see it every night now, sometimes crawling low, sometimes standing tall, always closer, always more brazen. One night, I heard splashing from the creek mouth. Not the quick slap of a beaver's tail, but something heavier, something wading through the water, deliberate, purposeful. I aimed my spotlight, my hands shaking, and the sound stopped, the night swallowing it whole. But at the edge of the beam, I saw them eyes, too high off the ground, too far apart, reflecting the light like a predator's, but blinking sideways like a snake or something older, something wrong. You see those eyes, don't you? Burning, unblinking, knowing you're trapped, knowing you're theirs. I dropped the spotlight, cut my lines with the knife, the blade shaking in my hand, and started the motor, the engine roaring as I fled. My heart was in my throat, my breath coming in gasps, the shore a blur as I sped away. I didn't look back, couldn't, but I felt it, those eyes following, never letting go. I should have stopped, then then found a new lake, left this one behind forever. But I couldn't not yet. The lake was my history, my home, its waters holding every moment of peace I'd ever known. I told myself it was just a man, a drifter, maybe sick, maybe driven mad by the wilds. But the eyes weren't human. The smell wasn't animal. The way it moved wasn't anything I could name. I kept my notebook, obsessive now, tracking every sighting, every sound, every moment of dread. It was always on the North Shore, always at dusk, or later, always watching, always waiting. I fished with one eye on the shore, my spotlight sweeping the trees, my knife closer than my rod, its weight a cold comfort against the terror growing inside me. You're holding that knife now, aren't you? Feeling its weight in your hand, knowing it won't save you, but needing it anyway, needing something to hold on to. The lake was a trap, and I knew it, but I kept walking into it, drawn by something I couldn't name. Fear, defiance, the desperate need to know what I was facing. I told my wife I was fine, that the lake was just spooky lately, that I'd be careful. But I wasn't fine, not anymore. I was hunted, and deep down I knew it, felt it in my bones, in the way the dark pressed against me, in the way the lake whispered my name. That's where I was on September 20th, when the lake became a trap, and I became its prey. I went out later than usual that night, nearly 9 p.m., chasing the fall walleye, bite the season's last chance to fill my cooler before winter locked the lake in ice. The moon was gone, the sky a heavy blanket of clouds, the water a pool of ink that seemed to swallow the world. I anchored on the North Shore, my spotlight parked in my lap, my nerves raw from weeks of seeing it, feeling it, knowing it was out there. Around 10:30, I heard branches break on the shore. Not small twigs snapping underfoot, but big limbs cracking like bones under a weight too heavy, too wrong. I swung the spotlight, my hands slick with sweat, and there it was, 30 yards away, standing at the water's edge, its form filling the beam. See it now, tall, emaciated, its skin stretched, thin shifting, like something's alive beneath it, its eyes glowing, locking onto you, knowing you're not getting away. It didn't move at first, didn't flinch from the light, just stood there, swaying its body too long, its arms dangling past its knees, fingers curling like claws that hungered for flesh. Those eyes burned not red, Not white, but something deeper. Something that saw me, saw through me, saw every fear I'd ever buried. I yanked the anchor, the rope burning my palms, nearly tipping the boat as I pulled it free. My hands fumbled for the motor, my breath coming in sharp, useless gasps. The thing moved, then stepped forward, the water parting around it, waist deep, and still coming, its sway unbroken, its eyes never leaving me. I gunned the engine, the roar filling the night, and shot toward the middle of the lake, the boat lurching under me. When I dared to look back, it was in the shallows, standing still watching. But then it moved along the shore, its form slipping through the trees, matching my speed, too fast, too sure, like it knew where I was headed. I needed to reach the boat launch, 3 miles of shoreline away, the only way out, the only chance I had. But it followed its shape, weaving through the pines, appearing on rocky points, jutting into the water, standing tall, unafraid, not hiding anymore. Its eyes caught my spotlight's beam, glowing brighter, unblinking, a promise of something I couldn't escape. Halfway to the launch, it did the impossible. It got ahead of me, stepping out of the trees, onto a fallen log that stretched into the lake, its roots clawing at the water. It sat there, its long limbs folding like a grasshopper's, its head tilting, as if curious, as if amused. I stopped the boat, 100 yards out, my breath ragged my hands, frozen on the tiller. It just watched its eyes, burning through the dark, unblinking, unrelenting. Then it moved, slid into the water, smooth and silent, the wake spreading behind it, like a hunter's trail. I floored the throttle, the engine screaming, the boat shaking as I pushed it harder than I ever had, harder than it was meant to go. The launch was close now, its dim light flickering. But I felt it behind me, the water rippling with something too big, too fast, too close. I didn't look. Couldn't my eyes, locked on the shore, on the dirt ramp, where I'd left my truck, my life. I hit the launch hard, the boat scraping gravel, grounding itself in the mud. I grabbed my keys, left the ropes, the knife, everything, and sprinted for the truck. My boots slipping my lungs, burning the night air thick with that smell, that rot that followed me. I reached the truck, fumbled the key into the lock, the door slamming shut as I climbed inside. I locked it, my hands shaking so bad I could barely turn the ignition. The engine roared, the tires spinning on gravel as I peeled out the road, stretching into darkness ahead. In my rearview mirror, caught in the glow of my taillights, I saw it standing in the clearing, tall and still, watching me go. its eyes hollow, its form almost disappointed, like a predator who'd let its quarry slip away. But only for now. The drive home was a blur, my hands gripping the wheel, my mind replaying those eyes, that swaying form, the way it moved through the water, like it owned the night. I didn't sleep. Couldn't the image of it burned into me, a scar I couldn't touch. I told my wife I'd had engine trouble, that I'd panicked and left the boat behind. She looked at me, her eyes searching, but didn't push, didn't ask why my hands shook, why I wouldn't meet her gaze. The lake had claimed something from me that night, something vital, something I'd never get back. I knew I couldn't go back. Not after that. Not after seeing it, feeling it, knowing it was real. But the lake still called to me, its water, whispering in my dreams, its shores pulling at my heart. I told myself I'd find a way, that I'd reclaim it, that I'd face the thing and win. But deep down, I knew the truth. The lake wasn't mine anymore, and maybe it never had been. It belonged to it, to the thing in the trees, the thing with eyes that burned and a hunger that never slept. That weight, that fear, that knowledge that won't let go. That's me now, a man who lost his lake, his passion to something that shouldn't exist. The next morning, I couldn't leave the boat out there, grounded and abandoned, a piece of me left to rot. I called 2 buddies, Mike and Dave, guys I'd fished with for years, men who knew the lake almost as well as I did. I told them the motor had died, that I'd had to run for help in a panic, leaving the boat behind. They didn't question it, just agreed to meet me at the launch, their voices steady, their jokes about my piece of junk boat trying to lighten the mood. But I wasn't laughing, couldn't not, with the memory of those eyes, that shape still fresh, still raw. We drove out at dawn, the lake calm under a gray sky, its surface smooth, hiding everything below. My truck rattled down the gravel road, Mike and Dave chatting about work, about fish they'd caught, about anything but the tension in my silence. We reached the launch, the boat still there, grounded in the mud, untouched, like the lake had spared it, like it was waiting for me to return. I stepped out, my boots sinking into the soft earth, my eyes scanning the trees, the shore, the water, looking for it, expecting it. Mike walked to the water's edge, checking the boat, then stopped, his voice low. "Hey, what's with these tracks?" He pointed to the mud near the launch, and I felt it, a cold jolt like ice in my veins. I looked down, and there they were, footprints, barefoot, almost human, but too long, too narrow, the toes splayed like claws, digging deep into the earth, sharp and deliberate. You're seeing them now, aren't you? Those prints. Wrong. Impossible proof of something you can't explain. Something you can't unsee. I shrugged, my voice tight. Said it was probably kids messing around. Maybe a prank. But my throat closed around it. My words hollow. Mike's eyes narrowing as he looked at me, sensing the lie. We didn't talk about it. Didn't need to. We hooked the boat to the trailer, the chains rattling the hull, scraping as we pulled it from the mud. Dave clapped me on the shoulder, said I owed them a beer for the early morning rescue. But his smile didn't reach his eyes. We loaded up and left the lake, silent behind us, its trees standing tall, its secrets buried deep, watching us go. I didn't look back, didn't want to, but I felt it, those eyes, somewhere in the shadows, marking me waiting. I haven't been back to that lake, haven't fished much anywhere since. The dark scares me now, a fear I can't shake, a shadow that follows me everywhere. I tried other lakes, smaller ones, closer to town, their shores open, their waters bright. But it's not the same. Every shadow's a threat, every ripple a warning, every quiet moment a reminder of what I saw, what I felt. My wife thinks I'm crazy, says one bad night shouldn't ruin what I love, what I've always loved. She's right in a way, but she wasn't there. Didn't see it slip into the water. Didn't feel its eyes burning through the night. Didn't smell the rot that clung to the air. I keep my notebook, those pages filled with times, places, sightings, a record of fear I can't bring myself to read. They're tucked away in a drawer, a weight I carry, but don't touch. Sometimes I dream of the lake, its water calm, its shore empty the way it used to be. But then I see it, crawling, standing, watching its eyes glowing, its hunger endless, calling me back. I wake up, gasping, my heart racing, my hand reaching for the knife I still keep in my boot by the bed. It's steel cold, useless, against what haunts me. I don't talk about it. Not with my wife, not with Mike or Dave, not with anyone. They wouldn't believe me. Or worse, they might. And then they'd know what I know, feel what I feel. I drive past the road to the lake, sometimes on my way to town, and feel it pulling, whispering, tempting me to return. But I keep driving my hands tight on the wheel, knowing I can't go back, knowing it's out there, waiting, its eyes fixed on me, its hunger never satisfied. I was 13, a Boy Scout in a Wisconsin troop, riding home from a regional jamboree that had filled our summer. with pride. My name's not important. Call me one of the 17 kids wedged into that old yellow bus, a 1994 clunker that reeked of diesel and worn-out seats rattling down Highway 53. It was 2009, and we'd just spent 3 days tying knots, building fires, and racing through forests, our troop clinching second place in orienteering a win that had us grinning like we'd conquered the world. The ride back was supposed to be simple. 4 hours from the campgrounds to our small town, leaving at 6 p.m., home by 10. But the road had secrets, and the woods were listening. The bus buzzed with life. Younger kids sprawled across seats, their faces smudged with dirt, their eyes heavy from days of running wild. Us, older ones. T.M. and I sat in the back, playing cards under a flickering dome light. Our laughter, sharp, cutting through the engine's drone. Mr. H., our scoutmaster, was at the wheel, his broad frame steady, his voice deep and calm when he told us to pipe down. Jay, the assistant scoutmaster, lounged up front, his flashlight flipping through a tattered map, tossing out corny jokes that made us groan. The bus shuddered with every turn, its engine grumbling, but it was our chariot carrying us through the night, a piece of our troop's heart. I pressed my shoulder to the window. The glass cool, watching the pines blur past their branches, black against a purple sky. Highway 53 was quiet, a ribbon of asphalt threading through forests thicker than memory, where deer outnumbered cars, and the stars felt close enough to touch. The jamboree had been a blast. Campfires, crackling badges, earned stories of ghosts and heroes swapped under the stars. But now the road felt heavier, the real world creeping in, school waiting like a shadow. I dealt a card to T, his smirk wide as he slapped down a king. But my eyes kept drifting outside to the woods, their darkness deeper than it should have been, like they were holding something back. We were kids, sure, but we knew the world wasn't all laughter and badges. We'd heard stories, lost hikers, strange lights in the forest, things that didn't add up, but they were just tales. Fuel for late-night scares. The bus was our safe haven. Mr. H's steady hands and Jay's dumb humor keeping the night at bay. I believed that clung to it until around 8:30, when Mr. H eased the bus into a rest stop, a small gravel lot carved from the wilderness, barely lit by a single orange sodium light. Stretch your legs. Hit the outhouses, he said, his voice warm but tired. A man who'd wrangled kids all weekend. Half of us tumbled out. Me in, included, my legs stiff, my boots crunching on gravel. The air was sharp, laced with pine and damp earth, the woods crowding the lot, their branches looming a wall of darkness on 3 sides. The highway stretched behind us, empty, a thin lifeline to the world we knew. The younger kids ran around, chasing each other, their voices high, while T.M. and I leaned against the bus, flicking pebbles, acting like we owned the place. Tyler, 11, and Small stood by the picnic tables, his glasses catching the light, his eyes fixed on the trees. He was always trailing us, quiet, trying to prove he belonged, but now he was still, his face pale. "Something's out there," he said, his voice low, pointing to where the light died. T grinned, tossing a pebble. "What a bunny. Gonna run home." "Tyler," I laughed. "M too," our voices loud, drowning out the unease. "We wouldn't name. You've laughed like that, haven't you?" Poking fun to bury the fear, to pretend the night isn't watching. Tyler's face tightened, but he didn't move his eyes, locked on the dark, wide and unblinking. I glanced where he pointed, seeing nothing but shadows, branches swaying faintly. The light buzzed overhead, moths circling their wings frantic. The air held a sour edge, like spoiled food. But I blamed it on the outhouses, their chemical stink. Mr. H called us back, his voice cutting through. "Let's go, Scouts." Jay swept his flashlight over us, counting heads, his beam pausing on Tyler, who hadn't budged. "You all right, kid?" Jay asked, stepping closer. Tyler nodded quick, but his eyes stayed on the woods like they were pulling him in. Jay shrugged, and we piled back onto the bus, the seats creaking, the air warm and heavy. Tyler was last, his steps slow, his gaze lingering on the trees as he climbed aboard. I watched him settle a few rows up his face, pressed to the window, still searching the dark, like he'd seen something we hadn't, something that wouldn't let him go. The bus lurched onto the highway, the rest stop fading, swallowed by the night. I dealt cards to T, trying to shake the weight in my chest, but the game felt flat, our laughter thin, like we were playing pretend. The windows were dark mirrors, reflecting our faces, our eyes. But beyond them, the woods stretched endless, their shadows pressing against the glass, like they were trailing us, biding their time. Tyler's words lingered. "Something's out there," and I pushed them down, focused on the cards, on the engine's hum, on anything but the feeling that we hadn't escaped the rest stop, that it was still with us, clinging to the night. The highway was empty, the night swallowing everything but our flickering lights. We were kids, but we knew the world held things that didn't fit our campfire. Tales, stories of lost hikers, strange lights, things that didn't belong. The bus was our shield, Mr. H's steady hands, and Jay's bad jokes keeping the dark at bay. But Tyler's face, pressed to the glass, his eyes wide, made that shield feel fragile, like it could shatter under the weight of what he'd sensed, what we all felt, but wouldn't say. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That weight, that whisper, telling you the dark isn't empty, that something's out there, closing in. The engine rumbled steady for a moment, then coughed a low, choking sound that froze my blood. Mr. H swore his hands tight on the wheel, and the bus slowed, coasting onto the shoulder tires, crunching gravel. The engine tried again, grinding, failing, then silence, thick, heavy, like the woods had leaned in their shadows, wrapping around us, waiting for us to break. The rest stop, on Highway 53, was a nowhere place, a sliver of gravel and grass stolen from the Wisconsin wilderness, lit by a single orange sodium light that flickered like it was dying. It was 2009, and I was 13. One of 17 Boy Scouts spilling out of our creaky bus, its diesel stink clinging to our clothes as we stretched our legs. The jamboree was behind us, 3 days of triumphs and laughter. But here, the air was sharp, laced with pine, and something sour, like decay, hidden under the earth. The woods crowded the lot, their branches a jagged wall, the highway a faint ribbon, behind us empty and silent. Mr. H leaned against the bus, his broad frame steady, his face worn from wrangling us all weekend. Jay paced nearby, his flashlight cutting through the dusk, checking his watch, like time was slipping away. The younger kids ran around their voices, high chasing shadows in the dim light, their energy defying the road's weight. T.M. and I hung back by the bus, tossing pebbles, our laughter loud as shield against the dark. We wouldn't admit scared us. Tyler stood alone near the picnic tables, his small frame dwarfed by the trees. He was 11, skinny, his glasses slipping, always trailing us, trying to earn a place among the older kids. "Something's out there," he said, his voice low, his finger pointing where the light faded into black. T smirked, tossing a pebble that skittered across the gravel. "Bunny got you spooked." Tyler. "Gonna cry." I laughed. M2. Our voices sharp, drowning out the unease we felt but wouldn't name. "You've teased like that, haven't you?" Laughing, to bury the fear, to pretend the dark isn't alive, isn't watching. Tyler's face tightened, his eyes wide behind his glasses, fixed on the trees, unblinking. I followed his gaze, seeing nothing but shadows, branches swaying in a faint breeze. The light buzzed moths battering it, their wings frantic. The sour smell was stronger, now sharp and wrong, like meat left to rot. But I told myself it was the outhouses, their chemical reek, masking something worse. Tyler's stillness gnawed at me, like he saw something real, something I was too proud to admit. I felt, too. Mr. H's voice boomed, cutting through our noise. 10 minutes. Scouts. Jay swept his flashlight over us, counting heads, his beam lingering on Tyler, who hadn't moved. "You okay, kid?" Jay asked, his voice softer now. Tyler nodded quick, but his eyes didn't leave the woods, like they held a secret he couldn't share. Jay shrugged, turned back to the bus, and we went on with our taunts, our games, our act of being fearless. I wandered toward the outhouse, the gravel crunching under my boots, the light fading as I neared the trees. The door was heavy, the inside cold and damp, the smell sharp chemical, but underneath it, that sourness lingered, making my stomach twist. I moved fast, my skin prickling, like someone was standing just outside, watching through the cracks. Stepping out, I felt the light pull me back, but I glanced at the woods. Just once. Nothing there. Just shadows. But the smell was thick now, clinging to the air, a warning I couldn't name. "You're there now, aren't you?" At the edge of the light, feeling the dark reach for you, knowing you shouldn't look, but needing to. I hurried back, joining T and M, their laughter loud, but strained, like they felt it too. Tyler was closer to the trees now, his hands in his pockets, his face pale, his eyes unblinking. "He's gonna have nightmares," M said, smirking, but his voice wavered. I nodded, but my eyes flicked to the woods, searching, finding nothing but darkness that felt alive, watchful. Mr. H clapped, his voice sharp. "Load up!" We piled back onto the bus, the seats creaking, the air warm and stale. Jay counted us, his flashlight bobbing, ensuring no one was left behind. Tyler was last, his steps slow, his eyes darting back to the trees as he climbed aboard. I watched him settle a few rows up, his face pressed to the window, still searching the dark, like he knew something was out there, following us, waiting. The bus lurched onto the highway, the rest stop shrinking behind us, swallowed by the night. I dealt cards to T, trying to shake the weight in my chest, but the game felt hollow. Our laughter thin, like we were playing pretend. The windows were dark mirrors, reflecting our faces, our eyes, but beyond them, the woods stretched endless, their shadows pressing against the glass like they were trailing us, biding their time. Tyler's words echoed Something's out there. And I pushed them down, focused on the cards, on the engine's hum, on anything but the feeling that we hadn't escaped the rest stop, that it was still with us, clinging to the night. The highway was empty the night, swallowing everything but our flickering lights. We were kids, but we knew the world held things that didn't fit our campfire tales, stories of lost hikers, strange lights, things that didn't belong. The bus was our shield. Mr. H's steady hands and Jay's bad jokes, keeping the dark at bay. But Tyler's face, pressed to the glass, his eyes wide, made that shield feel fragile, like it could shatter under the weight of what he'd sensed. What we all felt but wouldn't say. You're feeling it now, aren't you? That weight, that whisper, telling you the dark isn't empty, that something's out there, closing in. The engine rumbled steady for a moment, then coughed a low, choking sound that froze my blood. Mr. H swore his hands tight on the wheel, and the bus slowed, coasting onto the shoulder tires, crunching gravel. The engine tried again, grinding, failing. Then silence, thick, heavy, like the woods had leaned in their shadows, wrapping around us, waiting for us to break. The bus sat lifeless on the shoulder of Highway 53, its engine silent, the night pressing against the windows like a living thing. It was 2009, and I was 13, one of 17 Boy Scouts heading home from a Wisconsin jamboree, our yellow bus, a worn-out 1994 relic, now a useless shell stranded in the dark. Mr. H tried the ignition again, the engine grinding, refusing to catch his curses, low and sharp, his hands tight on the wheel. Jay grabbed a flashlight, popped the hood, his beam slicing through the night, searching for a fix, his movements quick but tense, like he felt the same weight we did. I was in the back, cards, forgotten my shoulder, pressed to the cold window, the glass fogging with my breath. T sat across from me, his eyes wide, his usual grin gone, replaced by a tightness that mirrored my own. The woods were close, maybe 15 feet away, their branches black against the faint glow of the bus's parking lights, their shadows stretching, too long, like they were reaching for us. The highway was empty. No cars, no lights, just us and the trees. Their silence, heavy, unnatural, like they were waiting for something to happen. Mr. H's voice broke through low, urgent speaking to Jay through the open door. "Call the council. Get a tow," he said, pulling out his flip phone, its screen a harsh glow in the dark. The younger kids shifted in their seats, their faces pale, their whispers nervous, like they sensed the same unease that had followed us from the rest stop, the same weight that had settled in my chest when Tyler pointed into the dark. I glanced at him, now a few rows up, his face pressed to the glass, his eyes wide, searching the woods, like he was still chasing what he'd felt back there. Something he couldn't let go. There's something out there, Tyler said, his voice small but sharp, slicing through the quiet, making my heart jump. Nobody listened at first. Not really. T rolled his eyes, muttered kids at it again, but his voice was thin, lacking its usual edge. M, across from Tyler, leaned over his nose to the window and froze, his breath catching. Man, there's something, he said, his voice high, cracking with panic. You're looking now, aren't you? Peering into the dark, seeing a shape move, something that shouldn't be there, something that stops your heart. We surged to the right side, faces pressed to the glass, our breaths fogging the windows, our eyes straining against the night. Just inside the tree line, something pale flashed, sudden and wrong, not creeping like at the rest stop, but bold, like it wanted us to see. It was human-shaped, but twisted, naked, its skin white, almost glowing, catching the bus's dim lights. It stood upright, then dropped to all fours, its limbs too long, too thin, bending at angles that made my stomach lurch like bones that didn't belong together. Its head was low face, hidden, but I felt its eyes burning, locked on us, knowing we were watching, knowing we were afraid. That's not a deer, someone whispered, their voice trembling, and we all knew it wasn't, knew it was something else, something that didn't fit in our world. Its skin was loose, sagging, like it was too big for its frame, rippling as it moved, like something was shifting beneath, alive and restless. Its spine jutted sharp, each vertebra a ridge, its shoulders angled like broken wings. Unnatural wrong. You feel it too, don't you? That moment when your mind screams, it's not real, but your heart knows it. Knows it's coming closer. The bus was chaos kids, whispering, some laughing nervously, others silent, their hands gripping the seats, their eyes wide. Tyler's face was pale, his hands pressed to the glass, like he was trying to understand it, to make it fit. M's voice was low urgent. That ain't human, man. Mr. H and J were still outside J under the hood. Mr. H pacing phone to his ear, unaware of the thing in the trees, the thing that had stepped out of the dark to show itself. It moved closer, sudden, dropping lower, its body fluid, but jerky, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. I saw it clearer. Now, its arms too long, fingers splayed, claw-like, brushing the ground as it crouched, its head still hidden, but its presence heavy, suffocating, like a hand on my throat. I wanted to yell, to warn Mr. H, but my voice was gone, my throat dry, my body frozen. T grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. "What is that?" he hissed, his eyes locked on it, his face drained. I couldn't answer, my mind racing, trying to name it. Animal person, anything but nothing. Fit. Nothing could explain the way it moved, the way it watched. The thing stopped. Crouched, maybe 10 feet from the bus, its head low, but I felt its gaze sharp, cutting through the glass, through us, marking us. The bus lights flickered, or maybe my eyes did, but its skin rippled again, like something beneath was stirring hungry. The younger kids were panicking now, their voices rising, some backing away from the windows, others leaning closer, drawn by the fear that held me fast. Tyler's voice came small, trembling. "It's not right," he said, and I wanted to tell him to stop, to not make it real. But he was right. It wasn't right. Wasn't anything we could understand. You're trapped now, aren't you? Wanting to scream, to run, but frozen, caught in the gaze of something that doesn't belong, that knows you're afraid. The air in the bus was thick. Our breaths loud, the silence outside heavier, like the woods were waiting, watching, holding their breath for what came next. The bus was a prison, its windows caging us, with the thing outside pale and twisted, crouched just beyond the trees on Highway 53. It was 2009, and I was 13, one of 17. Boy Scouts stuck in the Wisconsin. Dark, our old bus, dead the woods, alive, with a terror that didn't belong. The thing was close, 10 feet away, its body low, its skin loose, rippling in the faint glow of the parking lights, like something beneath was alive, restless. Its head hung low, face hidden, but its eyes burned unseen, but felt locking onto us, knowing we were watching, knowing our fear fed it. Inside the bus was chaos, whispers, gasps, kids crowding the windows or shrinking back, their faces pale, their eyes wide with terror. Tyler, the youngest, was frozen, his hands pressed to the glass, his glasses glinting, his voice gone. M, next to him, muttered fast, his words a jumble like he was trying to ward off what we saw. T gripped my arm, his fingers bruising his breath, shallow. "What is that thing?" he hissed, his face drained, his eyes fixed on it. I had no answer, just fear, raw and heavy, choking me, pinning me to the seat. "You're there with us?" aren't you? Heart pounding, eyes locked on something that shouldn't exist, knowing it sees you, knowing it wants you to drown in fear. Mr. H and J were still outside. J under the hood, his flashlight bobbing, Mr. H pacing phone to his ear, their voices faint through the open door, oblivious to the thing that had stepped from the dark, bold, and sudden, like it was claiming us. It shifted its limbs, folding, sinking lower, like it was ready to spring, to cross the final gap between us and it. Then it raised its head, slow, deliberate, and I saw its face, or what passed for one. Its eyes were deep sunken, glowing faintly, not like an animal's, but something older, something that saw through us, knew us, hungered for us. Its jaw was narrow, too small for the mouth, a thin slit that didn't move, but I felt it, smiling, a cold, empty smile that crawled under my skin, made my blood freeze. The kids around me froze, their whispers, dying the bus, silent, except for our ragged breaths, fast and uneven, like we were all drowning in the same fear. You see that face now, don't you? Those eyes, that mouth, that thing that's not human, but knows you, knows every secret you've buried. It made a sound then, not a cry, not a growl, but a moan, low and wet, like a throat choking on its own decay, thick with pain and hunger. It lasted too long, 15 seconds, maybe 20, never pausing, never breathing a sound that burrowed into my head, my bones, my heart. It wasn't just noise. It was a promise, a hunger that could swallow us whole, a warning we couldn't escape. Half the bus erupted, kids crying out their voices, raw shattering the silence. The sound pulled Mr. H back, his boots heavy as he ran inside, J close behind their faces, lit by panic. What's going on? Mr. H demanded, his voice sharp, his eyes scanning the chaos. The kids pressed to the windows or cowering in their seats. There's something outside, someone shouted, pointing their voice, high, trembling. Mr. H pushed through the aisle, his bulk steady, but his face pale, and looked where we pointed. The thing was still there, crouched, its head lowered again, but unmoving, like it was waiting, like it knew help was coming, and didn't care. Oh, Lord, Mr. H muttered, his voice low, his hand gripping the seat back. Stay in your seats. Jay, call 911 now. Jay was already moving his phone out, his voice tight as he spoke to dispatch. We've got a person acting erratic near our bus, maybe on drugs. But I heard the doubt, saw the fear in his eyes, because he saw it too. Saw the way it wasn't human, wasn't anything we could name. The thing moved slow, crawling toward the front, its limbs folding its body, fluid but insect-like, each step deliberate, unnatural. It stopped near Mr. H, by the door, raised itself slightly still on all fours, and moaned again, wet, endless wrapping around us, like a chain. Mr. H stepped back. His face drained his hand on the door frame. "You need help," he said, his voice thin. "Police are coming. Stay there." You're hearing it again, aren't you? That moan, that hunger, wrapping around your heart, pulling you into the dark. The thing tilted its head too far, its neck bending wrong, its eyes glowing brighter, locking onto Mr. H, then J, then us, like it was counting us, marking us. It smiled, not with its mouth, but with its eyes, a glint that savored our fear. Jay stepped forward. His mag light raised his voice, shaking. "Back off. I mean it." The thing stared, its eyes burning, then moved fast backward, not turning its limbs, folding, scuttling 20 feet in seconds, smooth and wrong. It stopped, sat in the road, upright, its legs bent, arms too long, skin sagging, staring at us, a busload of kids frozen in its gaze. The younger kids were crying now, their voices small, broken, some hiding under seats, others clutching each other. Even T, always tough, was pale, his hands shaking, his eyes fixed on the thing. I wanted to move, to scream, to do anything, but I was frozen. My body heavy, my mind screaming that this wasn't real, couldn't be real. But it was those eyes, that skin, that moan, all of it. Real, all of it there, waiting, just outside our fragile shell of a bus. You're frozen too, aren't you? Trapped in that moment, caught in the gaze of something that knows you're afraid, that wants you to stay afraid. The thing didn't move, didn't need to. Its presence was enough, its eyes enough, boring into us, marking us as its own. The bus was a prison, the windows, our bars, the woods outside, a world we didn't belong in anymore. The thing sat in the road, pale and twisted, its eyes locked on our broken bus. 17 Boy Scouts trapped inside the Wisconsin night, thick with terror. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but growing, cutting through the silence. The thing heard them, its head tilting, its eyes glinting, like it was deciding whether to stay or go. It stood slow, its body unfolding, too tall, too thin, its limbs bending at angles that hurt to see like bones that didn't fit. It dropped to all fours, its movements fluid but jerky, and scuttled into the trees fast like a spider, like something that owned the night. It vanished, but its presence lingered heavy, a stain on the air that wouldn't fade. Police arrived minutes later. 2 cruisers, their lights flashing beams sweeping the woods, searching for what we'd seen. They took statements from Mr. H and J, their voices, low faces, tight. One cop found a trail in the dirt, faint with marks he called odd, his flashlight lingering on prints, almost human, but wrong, too long, too narrow, toes digging deep. His partner cut him off, said to write it as barefoot prints, like he was afraid to admit what he saw. They called it a drug user, someone on meth, erratic, but human. But we knew better. All of us, even Mr. H, whose eyes stayed on the trees, like he felt it watching. Jay clutched his mag light, his jokes gone, his face pale. The story was clean, but it didn't fit. Drugs don't bend bones, don't make you moan like that, move like that. You know it too, don't you? That what we saw wasn't human, wasn't anything that belongs. We waited 3 hours for a tow, then a replacement bus, the night endless, the woods silent, but alive. We crowded to the left side, away from the trees, whispering what we saw. Tyler said the hands were wrong, too many knuckles. M said the skin didn't fit, like it was stolen. I stayed quiet, my mind replaying that moan. Those eyes, that smile, that wasn't a smile. The replacement bus arrived, its lights bright, but it didn't feel safe. We boarded, avoiding the right side windows, the ride home silent, no cards, no laughter. Mr. H sat up front, hands tight, eyes on the mirrors, watching for something to follow. Jay stared ahead, his flashlight off his face drawn. You're on that bus now, aren't you? The road ahead, but the dark still holding you, its eyes never leaving. We reached town, but the damage was done. 3 kids quit the troop, their parents saying they were too scared. Tyler had nightmares for months, his mom begging Mr. H for answers we didn't have. The troop banned talk of it, made it a forbidden legend. But it lived in us, in our silence, our flinches at shadows. Years later, I carry it still. I've seen addicts, broken people, but nothing matches that thing. It wasn't human, wasn't animal, was something old, hungry, waiting in the woods for kids like us. I avoid forests, dark highways, the places where the night grows quiet. I see Tyler. Sometimes, his eyes haunted, like he still hears that moan. T and M don't speak of it, but I know they feel it in the dark, in the quiet. We're marked by that night, by the thing that knew us, that wanted us to know it was there. You're carrying it too, aren't you? That fear, that knowledge, waiting for the next time the dark closes in, when you'll feel it, watching its hunger, endless, knowing your name. The air in the library hung heavy, thick, with the scent of old paper and dust, the kind that settled in your lungs and never left. In 2009, at 16, I worked nights at this crumbling building in a small Ohio town, a place where time seemed to stall its shelves, sagging under the weight of forgotten books. My name doesn't matter, just a kid trying to keep the lights on at home, where my mother waited a storm of rage and addiction, who made every day a fight to survive. Our duplex was a prison, its walls stained with her cigarette smoke, its floors creaking under her restless pacing, reeking of gin and despair. She wasn't always like this, or maybe she was, and I was too young to see the truth. By then, her eyes were sunken, her hands shook, and her voice sliced through me, fueled by whatever she could beg, steal, or swallow. Home was a battlefield. Mother's moods swung like a pendulum, screaming about money. One moment, sobbing about my father, the next, a man I never knew, gone before I was born. You're his curse, she'd hiss, her breath sour, her nails digging into my arm if I dared look at her wrong. There were moments, rare and fleeting, when she'd hum a song, her hands soft, her eyes almost kind, but those drowned in her rage, her accusations, her fists. I'd lock myself in my room, a cramped space, with a thin mattress and a flickering bulb, counting the days until I could escape. But freedom was years away, and she made sure I felt every second of that wait. The library was my refuge, a maze of shelves and shadows, open late for the town's insomniacs and drunks. I worked from 5 p.m. to midnight, shelving books, checking out tattered paperbacks. The silence broken only by the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional cough of Mrs. Hargrove, the head librarian, who trusted me to close up alone. The building was old, its wooden floors warped, its windows rattling in the wind, its air heavy with the weight of stories. No one read anymore. I'd lose myself in the routine, sorting returns, wiping dust, the rhythm keeping her voice out of my head, her hands off my skin. One night, late August, I was shelving in the biography section. The lights dim, the air cool, when a book caught my eye. It was out of place, A thin volume with no title, its cover worn, its pages yellowed. I opened it, expecting a memoir, but the words were strange, handwritten, not printed in a scrawl. I didn't recognize, describing a street. I knew, a man walking alone, a shadow behind him. The last line stopped me cold. She took him. My hands shook. My heart raced, and the air grew heavier, like the library was watching, waiting for me to understand. Look closer, a thought urged. Not mine, not quite, but I closed the book, shoved it back, and moved on my breath, short, my skin prickling. I told myself it was nothing, a prank, a forgotten diary, but the feeling lingered, a hum in my head, a whisper, not from the book, but from the shelves, the walls, the air. When I got home, Mother was awake, pacing, her eyes wild, her voice sharp. "Where's my money?" she snapped, grabbing my arm, her nails cutting. I handed over my pay, kept my eyes down, but she shoved me, her breath sour. "You're hiding something," she muttered, her gaze piercing, like she knew, like she felt the library's hum too. I locked myself in my room, the bulb flickering, the air stale, but the whisper stayed the book's words in my head. She took him. The library wasn't the same after that. The shelves seemed taller, the shadows deeper, the air thicker, like it was alive, holding secrets I wasn't meant to know. I'd shelve books, my hands steady, but my eyes darted to the biography section, to that book still there, untouched, its cover blank, its presence heavy. The whispers came every night, faint at first, a hum from the shelves, the lights, the pages growing clearer, sharper. She's hiding something. I'd shake my head, focus on my work, but the lights would flicker, the air would cool, and the whisper would cut through. She did something. Mother was worse, her nights longer, her hands crueler, her voice accusing me of knowing too much, of seeing too much. She'd come home at dawn, her clothes reeking her eyes, glassy, muttering about debts, about people who'd crossed her, about me, always me, dragging her down. "What do you know?" she'd hiss, her grip tightening her nails, drawing blood. I'd deny it, keep my head down, but her eyes saw through me, saw the fear, saw the whisper. I couldn't name. One night, I was sorting returns. The library dark, the windows rattling, when the book fell. Not slipped, not tipped, but fell landing open at my feet. Its pages turned to a new passage, handwritten, fresh, describing an alley, a man begging a woman's hands. Read her eyes, empty. My breath stopped. My hands shook, and the whisper came loud, clear from the shelves. The lights, the air. She took him. I slammed the book shut, my heart pounding, but the pages flipped back, the words shifting, rewriting themselves. John, 2007, alley. The lights dimmed, the air grew cold, and the whisper sharpened. She killed him. I ran to the back room, my hands shaking, checking the logs, anything to stay busy. But the whisper followed, and when I glanced at the checkout desk, another book was open. Its pages, blank except for one line. She's not what you think. I dropped my pen, my breath short, my eyes darting to the shelves. The lights all still now, but the library was alive. Its hum, a voice telling me to look, to know. I went home. Mother, waiting. Her eyes wild, her voice accusing. What did you see? She screamed, grabbing me, her nails cutting. I fought, ran to my room, locked the door, but the whisper was there, the library's voice in my head. She killed him. I found a file in the library's basement, hidden behind old magazines. A news clipping about a man, John, missing since 2007, last seen in an alley near our town. The photo was grainy, but his eyes were hers. Mother's dark and deep, and the whisper came clear, cold. He's gone. She made him gone. I hid the clipping, my hands shaking, but Mother knew her eyes sharper, her voice accusing, like she felt the library closing in, like she knew the truth was near. The library was a prison now, its shelves alive, its lights flickering, its air thick with truths I couldn't ignore. The books changed every night, their pages rewriting, showing alleys, blood, her face, her hands, her eyes, always, her eyes, black and empty. One night, I was closing up the library. Dark, the air heavy, when the shelves shook, books falling, pages flipping, the lights strobing, the whisper, a scream. She killed him. She'll kill you. The checkout desk's computer flickered, showing not the catalog, but a street, an alley. Mother standing over a man, his eyes still, her hands red, her face twisted. Not hers, not human. I froze, my heart pounding, my breath short. The library, alive, its voice in my head. My soul. She's not your mother. The books spun, pages, tearing the lights, strobing. And the whisper came from everywhere. John, 2007 alley. She took him. I grabbed my keys, my hands shaking, and ran to the door, but it wouldn't open. The handle cold, stuck, like the library was holding me, forcing me to see. The screen flickered again, showing her mother in the library, not the alley. Her eyes black, her hands red, her face twisted. Something else, something that killed. I broke free, ran home. Mother, waiting. Her eyes wild, her voice a snarl. "What did you see?" she screamed, grabbing me, her nails cutting her breath, hot sour. I fought, but she was stronger, her hands on my throat, her eyes, not hers, black, empty like the library, like the whisper, like the truth. The air thickened. The room spun, and I felt it. The library's hum, the book's pages, the whisper. She's not your mother. Run. I broke free, ran to the door, her screams behind me, her hands reaching, but I was faster, down the stairs into the night, the library's voice in my head, the truth too close, too real. I ran into the Ohio night. August 2009. My breath ragged. My heart pounding the duplex, a shadow behind me. Its walls holding her, holding the truth I couldn't unsee. The streets were empty, the town asleep, the stars too far to care. But I ran my feet, pounding asphalt, my lungs burning, until I reached a neighbor's house. Their porch light, a faint hope. Mrs. Larson, old and quiet, opened the door, her eyes wide at my bruises, my fear. "What happened?" she asked, pulling me inside, her hands steady. I couldn't say it. Mother, the library, the books, the man, the blood. I collapsed, shaking the truth, too heavy, too sharp. She called the police, wrapped me in a blanket, her voice soft. But the whisper stayed the library's hum in my head. She killed him. The police came, their questions gentle but firm. I told them pieces. Mother's rage, her hands, the library's strangeness, but not the books, not the whisper, not the clipping. They wouldn't believe it, and I was too broken to try. They searched the duplex, found her, found the drugs, the gin, but not the file, not the truth. She was gone, they said, fled her. Things scattered the library silent, its books still, but I knew it wasn't over, knew the whisper was waiting. They called it abuse. Sent me to an uncle in a town far away. His house quiet, nothing like hers. But I wasn't free. The whisper followed in dreams, the book's pages flipping the clock at 11:43. The voice, clear. She's not your mother. Years later, I found the clipping buried in my uncle's attic about John missing since 2007. His eyes, hers. I burned it, but the whisper stayed. The truth stayed. She took him. She wasn't her. I don't know what she was. Human, monster, something else. But she wasn't my mother, and the library knew. Showed me. Broke me to save me. I'm older now, but I carry it, the duplex, the library, her, the whisper. I avoid libraries, their shelves too quiet, their books too still, ready to speak truths I can't face. I see her in dreams, her eyes black, her hands read the library's hum behind her. The clock at 11:43. I'm marked by her, by it, by the truth that broke me, that set me free. The night's quiet now, but I hear it in the silence, in the shadows. Its voice clear, its truth endless, knowing my name, knowing I'll never be free.